in the section. I've also included the SQL code that we're going to write in this video as a resource to this video. So if you want, you can just copy and paste the SQL code into MySQL Workbench and then just create the database that way. But for now, if you want to follow along, we're going to be creating 3 tables. In our test database, we're going to create an addresses table, a people's table, and a pets table. So the first thing we need to do is actually create the database. So let's type create database test and then run this code. And then we need to use the database. So use test. So run that, and now we're in the test database. We can create our first table. So the first table that we want to create in our database is an addresses table. So let's type create table addresses, open our brackets, end with a semicolon like normal, and then we can type in our columns. So the first column is going to be an ID column, and this is going to become our primary key for this table. But for now, we're just going to have it as an int data type. So it's going to contain 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And then the next column is going to be a house number column. So let's type house number, and that's also going to be an int. And then the next column is going to be a city column. So the city that the address is in. And that's going to be a varchar, and it's going to have a maximum length of 20. And then the final column in our addresses table is going to be a postcode. So a postcode is the British equivalent of a zip code. It's made up of numbers and letters, and it has a maximum length of 7. So let's type varchar and have it set to a maximum length of 7. Okay, so that's it for the addresses table. So now we can just run this query to actually create the table. So that's done. So now we can move on to our next table, which is going to be a people table. So let's type create table people, open our brackets, end with a semicolon, and then we can type our columns. And the first column is going to be an ID column again. It's going to be our primary key, but for now, let's type just int for the data type. And then the next column is going to be first name. So first name of the people entered into this table. That's obviously going to be a varchar, and let's set the maximum length to 20. And then the next column is going to be last name of the people in this table. That's also going to be a varchar with a maximum length of 20. And then the final column in this people table is going to be an address ID. So let's type address underscore ID. And this is going to be a foreign key to the ID column in our addresses table, which we'll add later on in this section. But for now, the data type is going to be an int. And that's it for the people table. So let's run that query to make sure we've created the people table. And then we can move on to the last table, which is a pets table. So the pets of the people in the people table. So let's type create table pets, open our brackets, end with a semicolon, and then we can type our columns into our pets table. So the first one again is going to be an ID column. It's going to be our primary key, but for now let's just type int as the data type. Then the next column is going to be a name column, and that's going to be the name of the pet. So it's going to be a varchar with a maximum length of 20. And then the next column is going to be species. So species of the pet, is it cat, dog, etc. So that's also going to be a varchar, and let's set the maximum length to 20. And then the final column is going to be an owner ID. So this is going to be a foreign key to the ID field in the people's table to specify which person owns this pet. So that's also going to be an int. And then that finishes that for the pets table. So let's just run that query. And now we've created our test database with our 3 tables in it. So let's just make sure that it did in fact create those 3 tables by running show tables. And you can see down here, if I manage to scroll it up, that we have our three tables. So we have our addresses table, our people table, and our pets table. So now that we've got our database complete, let's look at how we can modify these three tables in the remainder of this section.